With this movie, we begin a new section on bones. Bones is the term given to the structure that connects your drawings together to create a skeleton, essentially, to move your characters through the scene. Bones can be used for inanimate objects like cars and things like that too, and it's a little more advanced application. We'll look at that in an upcoming movie. But first I wanted to introduce you directly to the concept of bones and then look at how they're structured inside of a character before we move on to some other considerations with bones. You'll notice there's no tools over here on the left-hand side of the workspace to create bones. The reason being, the only time that those tools show up, like anything in anime, is when you actually activate some layer or something that requires them. And in this case, it's always a layer. So we'll come over to our Layer New button, click on that, and we'll come down to the bone layer. Now this is, for all practical purposes, a folder. You put other art layers inside of this. I'll just name this bone just to do it. And obviously there's a little bone icon for it. When you are working in a scene, everything that needs to be affected by the bones or the skeleton gets clicked on and moved into that folder. It highlights red, you release it, and now we get a subset. But we still have no bone tools over here unless we click on the bone layer or the folder itself, and then we see we have some new bone tools to work with. The Select Bone tool is automatically selected, and then we only have one here, which happens to be the Add Bone tool, keyboard shortcut A, just like Add Point. We don't have to worry about adding points because those tools aren't there. To deploy a bone, you simply click and drag, and you get this funny little triangle, and then you can click and drag again and create some interconnected structures. Well, that's all well and good. Let's see how it's actually applied to a character. I'll come up to File, New. It's asking, do you want to keep this? And of course I don't. I'll come up here to my upper right-hand side, and there's a character builder up here. And we'll just click on this, and for the sake of speed, we'll just grab the first character that shows up. Now we'll zoom into this, and this character is a little more sophisticated. If you haven't looked at characters yet, there's quite a few things going on here, but let's look only at the bone layer now for front three-quarter view. When I click on this, all of a sudden we see the bones show up in the scene. We also have a full complement of bone tools to work with, and we'll get into more details for each of these as we start working with them in the following movies. But let's look specifically at the structure of how the bones are applied to a character. Whether it's animal or monster or humanoid, the main bone that's always drawn first is called the hip bone. And we see this one bone sticking out sideways. It's larger than any other. The reason that is the case is because all appendages and all movement for the rest of the body is centered around this one immovable object, the hip. Think about bending or anything like that, or a horse that's running. Everything can move away from the rear legs, and the rear legs can move away from the hip, which is the reason that's there. It creates a point of rotation that you can work with. If I come over here to, we have our Select Bone tool, but there is one which is the Manipulate Bone tool. If I select that, and I happen to grab the hip bone and select it directly and then click and drag, we can see the whole character rotates around this. However, if I grab a hand and then pull, we see that that is moving the arm as well. You're seeing a process right here that's known as inverse kinematics in the animation world, and it's where the motion inversely moves down the chain from the object right here. So when I grab the hand and I pull it out, the rest of the arm goes with that. If I grab the top of the chest or the abdomen, we can get that to move, and likewise for the head. So this is how bones are used to control characters, but how much influence they have over certain areas and where you run into little problems we'll come up with in our upcoming movies.